Welcome, friends. Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as Nicolas Cage and Willy Wonka. I am one of your hosts, Brenton Bestwick, alongside my co-host, Bernie Sanders Mitten Maker, Greg Felson. Greg, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well. It didn't take me as long as you would think to make those mittens, but I'm happy that they're in the photos literally everywhere.
Yes.
Which I'll tell you right now, I haven't got sick of.
What's your favorite?
Oh wow, what is my favorite? Well, it's hyper local, but this restaurant that I really like out here did one where like the wife and the husband are the owners. She's the head chef. He's just sitting there having dinner with them. And I just, like, that one just struck me because it's, like, that's just so hyper-local. Only so many people are going to see that. But anytime he's just kind of, like, also when he's just, like, sitting in the middle of nowhere, I like that, too. Because that just cracks me up. Because it's probably what he would rather be doing.
Yeah. Well, my favorite was probably, it was the actual picture of him sitting in the gallery or whatever, and the subtitle or the meme lettering or whatever said this could have been an email.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah. I really like the one of him sitting at the shawarma joint with the Avengers as well.
That's good. That was good favorites.
Too. Yeah, I'll tell you what. I had a weird situation happen to me tonight. And
all right.
Let me set this up a little bit. So when we moved into the house that we live in, the house to our left was a duplex that's being remodeled, so nobody lived in it. The house to the right was a bed and breakfast. Those people came and went, never really had any interaction with them. The folks from the bed and breakfast, when COVID hit and they lost their clientele, decided they were going to sell the bed and breakfast and just, allow it to be a house or whatever. So this family bought it, and they have kids that are all around the same age as my kids. The thing is, they're very religious. They went to Grove City College, and if you don't have what that information is, it's like Playboy magazine rated it the worst party school in America, and literally if you walk on the grass you get in trouble. It's extremely religious. You have to go to chapel so many hours, whatever. So they're very religious, and I am not that very religious at all. So it was about 7:30. And I hear a knock at my door, which is weird because nobody comes, the only people that come here are my mom and Melissa's mom and sister. So I hear a knock at the door. I'm like, who the hell is that? And I have these two big dogs, and one of them has this really gnarly sounding bark. She sounds like way worse than she actually is. She sounds like she should be like a Rottweiler or a pit bull with this bark. And I answered the door in all black with my Wu-Tang Clan shirt on that I'm wearing.
Nice.
And it was this poor kid who was looking for this family. He's like, I think I went to the wrong house, man. And I'm like, yeah, you did. One house over. Just trying real hard to be real intimidating. But it was funny, and like I said, they're
that's awesome.
They're real religious, and I'm like, sometimes I yell bad words, like when I'm home alone playing video games and stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But
I think our neighbors were playing video games today because they were just screaming. And either they were screaming at each other or screaming at the TV. But it felt like they were more screaming directly at something instead of at each other.
Yeah, that's good. So do you live in like a condo, right?
Yeah.
Are your neighbors like, how's that work? Your neighbors?
I mean, everything's like attached, but it's like there's a good difference in between each. Like everything's attached, but it's not like paper thin walls or anything. Okay. I mean, I had the door open today because of a delivery thing, and I wanted to hear it just in case I was doing stuff. So things like that played a role in hearing it. Normally, it's very, very quiet here.
Did you get your Home Depot situation resolved?
I'm glad you asked. Yes and no.
Okay.
So they come today and got the washer dryer, and then the guy says to me, he's like, "Oh, I have the dishwasher, but I don't have I don't have any of the parts." And I don't have it as a takeaway, we haul it away. And I was like, pretty sure I did this last week when I went on forever. And
you could have just pulled up the podcast and had them listen to it.
And yeah, I should have done that. Although it wouldn't add to our downloads. Anyhow, so have him do it on his phone.
Right.
So I'm like, well, I know I did this. And he shows me his order form, and it does not have anything on his order form. But his order form is from the company that does the delivery, which it's some weird name that I think is intentional so that you don't remember it.
Sure.
So I can't think of it. And even when you hear the message, because I had to call them, get that situated, it's still hard. So anyhow, I am like, well, I have to call Home Depot. And I call Home Depot, and I eventually get through to the assistant manager. And I will say that her name, Cheyenne, she was very nice. I'm going to say her name because she was very nice. And she, as of right now, has been the best of the, I think, 6 people that I've talked to over this process.
Sure.
And so she's like, well, I have the order form, and you have the parts. You paid for the parts, and you paid for the haul away. And she even offered that if they had the parts in the truck, that she would just come and pick it up. She offered to come and pick it up, even though there's, like, they wouldn't do the haul away.
Wow.
And I was like, that's great.
That's service.
So I asked the guy, I was like, you guys don't have the parts. Then he's like, no. I was like, well, can you at least take ours out? And then, whatever, she's going to pick it up. And he's like, no, it has to be one whole thing for us to do this. So I go back and I get on the phone. I'm talking to her and the guy delivering it, and he's installing the washer dryer, which worked beautifully. I will say that. They do work great.
Good.
Yeah. So I'm talking to both of them, and I get to, with her, I get to the situation where I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong, and no one has said that I've done such. I feel like I've done everything right. So she says, like, well, I'm going to call you back. We're going to get this figured out. We're going to get this all done. She calls me back. She left a message. I was eating dinner when she called. And she is going to have it delivered next Wednesday, installed with all the parts, and I will not be paying for any of the installation on any of them or the haul away. So
do you get that credited, or how's that work?
I'm going to get that credited. And she even, like, she was funny because she said that she doesn't like the delivery company they use. And she had, like, something stupid happen. So, so it looks like right now, I'm going to have it next week. Going to have dishwasher installed next week. We'll see what happens. I'll believe it when it's actually here and working and everything's good. But as of right now, so I'm 2/3. 2/3. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Right. Meatloaf.
But it ain't good either.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hey, man, 2 out of 3 gets you to the Hall of Fame in baseball.
Oh, I mean, if you're 2 out of 3 in baseball, yeah, that's a whole different thing, though.
But this is the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet, not sports, religious neighbors, or the Home Depot. We publish every Friday at 7 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Pandora, and other podcast services around the globe. We have our social media accounts, facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram, Twitter @BXG Podcast, youtube.com/BXG Podcast. Episode 18, we did our retro review discussion for Back to the Future, which was fun. And we have another, I wouldn't really necessarily call it a retro review because the movie just came out last year. But we do have a review of a movie that is a little bit older. Let's see here. DJ Outro's podcast. Did you get in touch with him?
I have not yet.
Because I put you and him on that group message.
Yeah. The last couple, it's been a week. Well, I'm just going to put it that way, but I will when I have things a little more sorted out. But sure. I will.
Yeah. But anyway, he's got 3 episodes out in the wild now. DJ Outro's podcast. I'll keep putting the links in the show notes just since I was on and you're going to be on. Do have a few corrections and clarifications. Bad Boys is the Inner Circle, not Tag Team. Tag Team is, of course, Whoop There It Is. I realized that when I saw the Scoop There It Is Geico commercial.
Yeah.
The Ant-Man character coming through the radio that we said that we recognized but we didn't know who it was Jimmy Woo. The Willy Wonka prequel is going to be 2023, and I said it was going to be 2024. So those are all of the questions and clarifications. We do have, as always, we have a great show tonight. Boston is here.
Whoa.
It's going to be more than a feeling.
More than a feeling.
Yeah, indeed.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. By Boston. From Boston, whatever. It was 6 pack of topics, clip of the week, which was a listener submission, and then quick hitters as always. So we have that. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Number 1, WandaVision episode 3. Episode 3 was the first in living color and sees Wanda and Vision coping with what to expect when they're expecting, with a twist. Wanda makes it through the entire gestation period, which is typically 40 weeks in about 6 hours. Something is clearly afoot in the neighborhood as Herb hedge clippers halfway through the divider wall, which I didn't know hedge clippers were that strong to go through straight concrete.
In the Marvel universe.
Fair enough. Wanda goes into as Wanda goes into labor, the house starts playing Exorcist style tricks with picture frames flipping and spinning and sinks exploding. And then Geraldine helps to deliver her twins. Vision speaks to Herb and Agnes, who report how strange Geraldine is because she does not have a home in the neighborhood. While fawning over the twins, Wanda mentions that she had a twin brother named Pietro, and although she did not bring up the fact that he became a human meat shield in the battle in Sokovia, Geraldine remarks that her brother was killed by Ultron, and then Wanda shoots her out of whatever this simulated world they're living in. As old JR in the WWE would say, business is about to pick up.
Yeah, this was a nice like combination of like, oh, this is funny because of the whole pregnancy thing, and then it's like, oh, we are still in the Marvel universe and things are happening. This show is just it's better than I expected, and I thought it was going to be really good. And this episode really kind of hit all those things that I wanted. I like how Vision was like really fast, even though that's never really been a thing for Vision. But I think it's like a Pietro. She was like kind of combining that her brother into Vision and all that stuff. There were little nods about like people not being able to leave with the doctor that was going to deliver a baby. He's like, oh, it's hard to get out of small towns and stuff like that. So I thought it was, and I like the nods to the Brady Bunch and to the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I like that. It's cool to like have a show that can still be very current as it is, but make huge nods to these classic television shows, and you don't feel weird about it. You're like, oh, I don't care if this is set in the 70s and everything, because they have all their powers, and it's the wink and a nod to that. I can't really get over how good Elizabeth Olsen is. She'll probably be stuck in the Marvel universe for a little while, thankfully. I mean, she's great, but she really can do everything. And she proves it in just the first 3 episodes of this, of how she can really hold it at, like when there's the whole thing of all the arcs of all the things that women do in shows when they're pregnant to hide it.
Yes.
I thought that was so funny. I just they really went all in, but for her to do it, and to do it just in that I Love Lucy style, which is what her character to me is in this show when she's not actually Wanda. She's basically Lucy, where it's all just in the motion, in the way she moves, in the way she's kind of nervous all the time. She does a great job of it, and I still have no idea what is going on. I don't know if Wanda's created this or somebody else has created this and thrown her in it, and she has the power to kick people out. But it's, and all the little Easter eggs with this. If I suggest people, I'm not going to go through all of them, but they're very cool. They're very cool, and if you're a Marvel person, you'll be so down.
Yeah, I think for me the thing with this is like they're clearly building towards something. I think that, and I read somewhere today that the episode 9 will change the Marvel cinematic universe forever. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's whatever. But I think this is clearly her creation, because when Geraldine, who is Monica Rambeau from Captain Marvel, says, Ultron, and obviously that's the big buzzword or whatever, and they're supposed to be in the 70s or the Brady Bunch area or whatever, and she says, oh, he was killed by Ultron, and then she gets booted out of whatever this thing is. It seems as though she got booted out of whatever it was, like completely expelled from whether this is a simulation or some type of created world or whatever. But I think that kind of showed us that this is of her creation. There was
my counter to that is, why are people skeptical? Because Vision made a comment about like, oh, this seems a little weird, and then she reversed time. So it's like one of those weird things where I'm like, that's where I'm, because I would normally like through the first 2 episodes, I would have said, yes, this is hers. But because people were, like, Geraldine was allowed in and then made that comment, it's like, I don't know. So it's one of those weird things where it's like, Wanda has a lot of control, but is she the actual puppet master of this?
Sure. You wonder if... Well, because here's the other thing is, spoilers for Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Vision's real dead.
Yeah.
Like, he's super dead. And, he's... So it's like, to me, I wonder how much of this is just like the events of Endgame happen. She comes back because she got snapped. She comes back. This is almost like her way of dealing with all that trauma, and almost like a PTSD sense that, well, we got rid of Thanos and his army, and then we went through like the whole Tony Stark funeral thing, and everything's calmed down. And there was a big headline this week that they were going to do a end credits scene in Endgame to set up WandaVision, and then they decided not to because of the grand scope of things and everything like that, because it was supposed to be a finality sort of thing. You wonder how much like maybe that this is her way of dealing with all that, and then these people like Geraldine and like you said, the people who are in whatever this is that are skeptical are maybe people on the outside trying to penetrate whatever she's got going on. I don't know. That's just one man's theory. The twins that she gave birth to, Billy and Tommy, they become characters.
Yeah. This is canon.
Yeah, this is canon. So, they're kind of setting that up. And then when we also have the confirmation in the Hawkeye series that he is training Kate Bishop as his replacement. So this is all kind of maybe pointing towards Young Avengers or New Avengers, whatever it's called, down the line. And I know that we talked last week about how there will be more Avengers movies, but not necessarily in Phase 4. So I wonder if this is setting up that group kind of down the line, Phase 5 and beyond.
It definitely seems like that. And I hope so, because they haven't, like we keep saying, they haven't let us down yet.
Right.
And I have no reason to believe they will, because this show is awesome, and it makes me even more excited about, I'm excited about She-Hulk, because I'm like, I wasn't, we've talked about the movies we weren't excited about when they initially came out, and then they're awesome movies. This is the thing that after we get done watching the 3rd episode, I just look over at Janie and I'm like, how cool is it that we have these?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the Marvel movies, and it's like, that was something that, anyone that was, even if you weren't a huge Marvel head like we are, but if you just like these, you got so excited about. And now you get little, 22-minute versions of these every week.
Right.
For, honestly, the foreseeable future. They really want to stack this up.
Well, longer when we get to some of those other shows.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, so it's one of those things where, like, we get little mini Marvel movies, which, as a product right now, are the best things that happen every year. Pretty much guaranteed. And we get them every single week. It's crazy because, the 3rd episode was so good, but this is like, everything is so good that they do. And now the movies were so good, and then we get this, and it's like, the Winter Soldier, and that's going to be so... I just think that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
I'm really pumped about that.
Definitely.
And we get that not that long from now. Like, I remember when that first got announced. Yeah, I remember when that first got announced. I'm like, boy, that seems like a long time.
Yep.
And we thought other things were going to happen. We thought we were going to get, other Marvel movies between then and now, and we didn't.
Right.
And you have that itch to scratch where you're like, ooh, but these shows are just little mini movies, essentially, and they keep the fact that they keep the characters and they keep the people playing the characters that we like and know certainly helps.
Right.
And this is just, going forward, I still have, like when you said that episode 9 will change the Marvel universe. I'm guessing something in this show does change the Marvel universe. That's not going to shock me. But this show doesn't have to. If it just builds up, I'm still going to really like it because it's really cool to have the characters that we liked in the movies.
Yeah, I think that now that they have the ability to do these sort of interstitial things, they can keep... And I think there's probably some pull for the bigger quote-unquote stars to do this because it's like more consistent. You're doing, there's going to be 9 half-hour things, so that's going to be... like 4.5, 5 hours, whatever. I don't know. I've always thought TV has it's just different. This is different. It's so much different now than when we were growing up in high school. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, once you once you were in the movies, you didn't come back to TV unless you had failed. You know what I mean? Like George Clooney, for example, he started on ER or whatever, and he went on to make boatloads of movies. He's not coming back to TV. But now with like the way that streaming is, and Netflix has all these subscribers, and Prime has all this money, and Hulu and whatever, and they can just throw money at these people to make. We talked about last week, Netflix is going to have 70 movies this year, and then it's not movies with like, you know, B/C list actors. It's like Leo, Hemsworth, The Rock, Gal Gadot, Ryan Reynolds. Like these are stars, so they can kind of go back and forth. And I think that's kind of alluring if you're in this role to know that I can continue to do this in different ways, not just these big movies. I think that's kind of alluring to the actor.
I think also too, and you know, with everything going on with COVID, people have kind of come to the realization that, you know what, I can enjoy movies at home.
Right.
You know, and I don't know if that necessarily was the case, even with Netflix. Well, you know, Netflix was obviously still super popular before all this. Everything was, but the fact that you're forced to.
Yeah.
And, like, you get to pause it. You're like, oh, you know what, I'm tired. Why don't I pause it now, and I can go to bed and then catch up on it. And things like that are super, super helpful. And then, you know, with the way TVs are so good now.
Yeah.
You know, nothing really, I mean, there's still nothing as fun to me, like, movie-wise, as going and waiting in line to go see, like, a big movie like a Star Wars and everybody reacting. That's really, really cool. And I hope that's not how I have to watch these really, really big movies. But for anything that's not like an action Star Wars Marvel thing, I'm actually totally fine watching any of those other movies at home.
Right. Well, I think that, not to stray too far from this particular topic, but I think that specifically the success of The Mandalorian has shown that maybe TV's where it's at. And I don't mean that just in the sense of, like you said, there's the convenience factor, obviously. But I think that it's easier to tell a story if you're... And I think that a lot of filmmakers and creative people who are, you know, writers or whatever, they want to tell stories in large chunks, not in these, you know, 2 or 3 hour bite size. You can do more. You could take Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're going to get 6 45-minute episodes. You could do more in 6 45-minute episodes than you can in 1 2.5 hour movie.
And here's the thing about that, and it sounds funny, but it's like when you watch a 2.5 hour, you know, 3 hour long movie, you're like, man, that movie was long.
Right.
You know, but it's shorter than all those episodes, but you don't think about it that way because it's literally just your viewing experience, which is just so funny to think like that, where it's like, if you actually just binge watch all those episodes, yes, that's longer than a movie.
Right.
But the way that they do it, and the one thing I do like, it's not appointment viewing, but it is appointment viewing to a degree. They don't release these all in one thing.
Yeah.
It's every Friday it comes out, and you watch it at your leisure. And I look at it still as appointment viewing. It's the first thing I watch, you know, when I come home. Just like I said with Mandalorian, you know, it's just like, I have my appointments lined up. And it's cool that they did that. I'm glad that they did that. I hope they do that with everything going forward. Just once a week. Don't make me feel like I have to watch everything all at once.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think that it serves this type of content more so than, like, I don't know. I haven't watched The Queen's Gambit, but I feel like it serves the Queen's Gambit to be all at once. Or maybe even, you know, some of the other Netflix, House of Cards, Orange is the New Black, any of those shows. But I think that there's a hype level where they want you to feel like, we'll go back to Mandalorian, and this is spoilers for Mandalorian if for some reason you're listening to this podcast and you haven't watched The Mandalorian season 2. There was a hype level of, you know, when the Dark Troopers came and took Grogu off the Seeing Stone, and now we got to get him back.
Yeah.
And the waiting kind of, you know, week to week, the waiting kind of stoked that fire a little bit. And I think the problem with the shows that they give you, you know, season 1 of House of Cards, Here It All Is, well, you know what? It comes and goes in a week or two, and the mind share of the public is on to whatever the next thing. But Disney's realized that if you do it once a week, and even to a lesser extent Hulu, because I know that's how Hulu and that's how Prime does it, some of their shows as well. Now the mind share is continuing. I would have, if Mandalorian season 2 came out all in one thing, I'd have had it done in a weekend and I'd been on to the next thing. But
Right.
as it came out, now I'm thinking about it for 2 months.
Yeah.
And now I'm more, I'm more likely to buy merchandise, and it's just, I think it's a smarter way of marketing their product.
I 100% agree. And I think, do you think this changes shows going forward? Because like Stranger Things is always really, it's the first 2 seasons, boom,
Right.
you hit with them. And I really like that show. But it's one of those things where it's like, once it's done, like the, it's just, The Ringer, it covers all these kind of things
Sure.
that we talk
Yeah.
about too.
Mm-hmm.
They write their thing and it's literally about the whole season.
Right.
And it's one reading,
Yeah.
you're done, and that's it. Now it's like content every week. And I mean, you're always, it's better to be in the spotlight every week than one major story one week. And
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it should.
The rest of the year.
Yeah, because and that's the thing. It's like, I also feel like I remember these shows better when they're stretched out because it's individual.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I really like Stranger Things. The first 2 seasons are great. I haven't watched the third one because I feel this pressure to watch it all at once.
Right.
And if it just came out once a week like that, I can set aside, an hour a week. I can't set aside 10 hours. That's just not possible. So, yeah, I appreciate the way that it's done on Disney. I think that that's the way to go. Do I think that all streaming platforms will go to that route? No. I think Netflix does what they do, and that's what they do. And they're almost, 70 movies in 1 year. I feel like they're almost quantity over quality. They want to push out a ton of content, as opposed to, it seems like with Disney, especially with the Marvel and the Star Wars stuff, they're really deliberate.
Well, it doesn't hurt them. They hit 200 million subscribers.
Yeah, right. Yep.
Is it like it doesn't hurt them at all? They just whatever. They like, we do what we do, and either you like it or you don't.
Right. So we'll continue, and next week I'm super excited for. I was a little like, I liked the first 2 episodes, but I thought they were funny, and that's why I liked it. But now I'm more intrigued as to where the storyline's going than I was after the first 2. So I'm excited.
Can I say that this has more of like a Captain America Winter Soldier, where like things are funny until they aren't?
Yeah, maybe.
Vibe where like
We'll see.
where we're kind of going.
I think
because
that there's going to be comedy throughout, though.
But there's always little comedic bits in all these Marvel movies.
Sure.
There was just something like, the thing about Captain America that always was funny is that obviously Steve Rogers was really old.
Yeah.
And that always with the little comedic bits. But this just feels to me like that, where it's like they can still slip that in there. Because Guardians is just always funny. And even when it's serious. But this is, it has like that, which I love the Winter, that's my favorite movie of those things. But it has that vibe to it, which, makes sense. They had to go off something. Yeah, I'm super excited the whole way.
Yep. So we'll see episode 4 next week. Number 2, the Challenge Double Agents. Teresa and Jay are out here making bold moves, but before all that, we see music video star Leo decide his mental health was more important than pack it in and head home. At the weekly challenge, the artist formerly known as TJ Loudon told the players their mental health is more important rather than chastise the fallen combatant for being a quitter as he would have in previous seasons. Leo left Gabby to partner up with Devin, who was a rogue agent at the time. In the Smuggler's Run challenge, competitors had to carry a long, heavy tube on a 5-mile run and solve puzzles along the way. The big winners were Jay and Teresa. Teresa pulled the strings with the rookie girls to vote in freshly returned Ashley and Corey, assuming it was a girls' day. Teresa and Jay then put Cam and Kyle in to face them. Girls' Day it was, and the crater challenge required each woman to do their best Peter Pan impression and fly around the crater, placing rings on hooks while harnessed. Cam figured out the rhythm first and sent Ashley packing again, moving Cam's all-time record in elimination challenges to 10-1 and giving her gold skull moving forward. Corey is left as a rogue agent, and the poor fella just can't keep a partner as Cam decides to keep Kyle.
I feel like this is a theme for this
show. This episode was kind of a dud to me.
It was definitely the challenge was like run 5 miles with a thing.
Yeah.
And like the fact that Jay and Teresa won kind of shocked me. I mean, like, I think here's the thing with them. they remind me like Jay reminds me of the sense of like if I like he's not the strongest guy in the room, but he is at least athletic enough to do this. And Teresa's like actually like athletic too. It's just the thing where it's like they are not. Nobody thinks they're going to do anything,
right?
Which makes them scary.
Yeah,
to,
and they had almost won
in
the preview last week.
Right. And they both. I don't know Teresa well. She reminds me of just like someone from New Jersey that just. She may not be there, but she has like the attitude of like a New Jersey character on a show. Where she like gives 0 Fs, which she proved because of what she did to pick, nobody knows what they're doing. I don't think people actually understand the concept. These people have been on this show for years, and they still don't understand who to get rid of, and like, why would you? I don't. Who cares about Ashley? Like we said before, like the only reason she won is because people carried her across the finish line. Listen, like she's literally not good at this show.
She's got 2 challenge wins, like Jawan Howard has an NBA championship.
Right. Yeah. It's like they're like, well, she's a champion. It's like,
Yeah.
Like I don't. That's, it's so gross to me that I forgot she even had challenge wins until they said it because I always thought her partners having challenge wins.
Right.
And I don't understand what people are thinking on this. Like Cam, you just don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
And it was the only thing I found super entertaining was how, like, they made Cam's highlight reel with like her dunking, like the Jordan thing, because they're like that was actually pretty cool. The rest of the show was like Leo leaving and like TJ Lavin just being super cool about it. Kind of irritated me. I was like, TJ, like you said, the artist formerly known as TJ Lavin. It's like. What are you talking about? Like, I understand, like, Leo's had some problems. I'm 100%, I get that. But, like,
so to
there
clarify,
was nothing behind.
Yeah, I'll clarify. And he said that living in that house, he had said that he spent some time in his younger years in group homes. And that living in the house reminded him of those group homes and that those were traumatic experiences. I've worked in group homes for kids for the last 10 years. And I can tell you that those are traumatic experiences for those kids. So if that's what he's feeling, then I can completely understand that. However, TJ Lavin hates quitters. There's if there's anything about TJ Lavin, it's that he hates quitters. Mm-hmm. And so my only thing is that the producers made him say that.
I mean, it had to be because even when her name's escaping me left. Oh my God! Last week she left because Natalie, when she left, like he was still kind of like sneaky upset about it, even though it was literally like a thing.
Well, like, I think in her case he was upset because it was a thing and she's tough and he wants to see people like that stay. Yeah. And I think the thing with Leo is just like, I mean, you understand? I think he could have said something that would have been both positive and negative, but it was mostly just like whatever. With him, it was, like he didn't even give the thing like, oh, I know you're a tough guy, and this is just we'll see you back here. It was just like, you're leaving. Take care of yourself.
Yeah. And that was it. Your mental health is more important.
Yeah. So the challenge itself, 5 miles, solve some puzzles, carry these tubes. I think it revealed some things about some of these people. Specifically one of your favorites, Lola Jones. And that she and her partner Nam are not on the same page, don't communicate well.
No.
And that's going to be a problem for them moving forward. But like I said last week, is like Lolo is an Olympian. I don't know how much she's got going on upstairs. We've covered that, what your assumptions are. But I really feel like Anissa, but the issue is, and this revealed Anissa's greatest weakness, endurance isn't exactly her thing.
She's wildly out of shape, and I don't mean that physically. I mean like the way she looks. Whatever. I mean, there's people out there that can have a little extra on them, and they can still do things. I mean, she literally couldn't do this challenge. It was rough.
I think, and part of it too was they're supposed to carry it together, and she's got a partner that's like a foot taller than her, so that wasn't helping matters either.
Well, I feel like there's probably ways around that I don't know. Like I would just had her in the front the entire time.
Yeah, they didn't think
they didn't
her
think
partner's
this through.
Fessy, so
Well,
and that brings me to what should have probably been the clip of the week was when I was watching it, and I watched it ahead of you, I couldn't help myself, and I recorded Fessy saying, I hope one of these challenges is like a math problem so we can catch up, and send it to you.
I couldn't believe it. Like, what's funny is I laughed very hard when you sent it to me. I laughed even harder the second time.
Yeah.
Because, like, I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nope.
And it was just...
no...
It was basically
no
Sudoku.
way.
Like, that's what it was.
Yeah, it was like the lowest level of Sudoku, too.
Yeah.
It was like, we have 8 of the 9 numbers filled in on each thing. And I mean, it's what it felt like. He's just... I don't know... I mean, he's definitely one of these guys where, like, obviously he's very built and very strong. I'm not going to put anything in. I don't know if he's as strong as he thinks he is. He's one of those guys where he might just be all muscle and not actual strength.
I don't think he is. I mean, we covered in the last 2 weeks. He struggled with Nelly in the hall brawl.
Yeah,
which size-wise is about the same comparison as you and me.
I would just say, like, you know,
the rope thing from last week.
Yeah, the rope thing was super bad. Like, I think it, you know, and he's not an NFL player, but NFL tight ends might be able to just carry that thing by themselves and just let Anissa do her thing. Yeah. And, you know, there's a reason why you're where you're at and where you're not at with these kind of things. And that might be, you know, because it doesn't matter how smart you are to get into, like, a, you know, upper thing. And it's just, I can't. So I didn't even have a show note with him this week because I was just like, he's so not ready for this. This is not his... this is so far beyond him. If he ever wins this, which I highly doubt, I mean, it's going to be because some girl helps him win. I mean, he is never going to be the leader of a group because he is unbelievably not ready for this. It's crazy. I'm not just saying it's just because I think he's stupid, which I do think he is that, and because I think he's weak, because I also think that. It's because I don't think he's prepared. And it's my thing with Anissa. She knows she's doing this. Run a couple miles every day, Anissa.
Right.
Like, do something. Like, this is literally your job. What else are you doing every day? Like, you just go out, do a little light jog. It's not like you're going in there and just going to sit and have a math class.
Right.
Like, this is... Actually, this episode, more than anything, like, kind of made me angry because I feel like no one knows how to play the game. You're like... It makes you, like... I mean, we always talk about Johnny Bananas because we should. It's like talking about basketball and not mentioning Michael Jordan.
Right.
That's the thing. He knows how to play the game.
Well,
and when he would...
In her case, she's very good at puzzles, right? She's very good at puzzles. She's known to be very good at puzzles. But in a final, you have to be able to run to the puzzle.
Yes.
Like, great. You solved it, you know, really quick. But the issue is that the person who's, you know, maybe... has a bag of sawdust in their head, ran there faster than and timed out faster than it took you to run there. Yeah. So I don't know. This season is like, you know, Wes went home early. We really like Natalie. She went home because of her personal situation. There's no Johnny. Like, CT in terms of actual entertainment is carrying the season.
And they go to him like 4 times an episode just for comic relief.
I do want to say, and this is, you know, media recommendations, I'm still watching this season that Josh somehow won on Big Brother. He says something in Big Brother all the time, and I'm really upset that it never migrated to the challenge to the point that I tweeted at him, which is in Big Brother, for no reason, he calls everyone a meatball, and it's hilarious. And he just, like, the way he says it, he just calls them meatballs.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
like, I'm putting you 2 meatballs on the block this week. Or, it looks like this little meatball, blah, blah, blah. Who's having meatballs for lunch? This meatball is. And I'm really upset that he hasn't broken that out in the challenge.
I'm sure it was like on a word a day toilet paper for him, meatball, and he just ran with it.
It's like it cropped. Like, I've read a couple interviews of him after that show, and it crops up. They're like, why did you call everybody meatball so much? And he's so, like, think about Josh, and we've seen him on, I don't know, 3 or 4 seasons of the challenge at this point. We know he's very emotional, and his maturity is kind of all over the place. I think he's getting a little bit better with that. And we talked the 1 week about how he seems to really seek the approval of older veteran players. That's him in Big Brother. I mean, he does whatever this one guy says, and he's very emotional, and his maturity level is comically juvenile. But I just want him to start calling people in the chat. Like, I want him to call Fessy a meatball. I'm going to keep tweeting. I think I'm going to tweet at him Like
I'll
literally,
tweet at him too.
Every day until he calls Fessy a meatball. Obviously, the season's over, but they're beginning to film the next season. I've been reading about.
Yeah.
They're going to be doing 2 seasons. They're doing a regular season with the current cast of characters, and then they are going to be doing an OG season with some of the older people. We do have one listener comment about the challenge, which comes from John K. He says today, when you think of Nelson in today's age, you think of friend of the show, Double Nelly T. But in the 90s, you thought of Nelson, can't live without your love and affection. He also wanted to note that additionally, he believes that your mom would be a big fan of that song reference. So
she probably would be. Yeah.
He sent that to me, or he sent that in, and I was like, what the hell is this? I don't know what this is.
I don't know that song, which is funny, but I'll see.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So we'll have that going as usual next week, the challenge. And moving on. Number 3. Did you have any other thoughts on the challenge, or you good?
No, I mean we never get enough Nani in this season, so I am sad about that.
Number 3. So this is our review, our quote unquote retro review, but like I said, it's not really a retro review because
I would just say it's Brenton and Greg at the movies, but at home.
There you go. Extraction, Netflix movie that came out last year, titled Extraction. Chris Hemsworth is a star. Here's the basic synopsis. A black market mercenary, Tyler Rake, played by Chris Hemsworth, who has nothing to lose, is hired to rescue a kidnapped son. The character's name is Ovi. Okay, so these characters and a lot of these actors are Indian. And I'm sorry if the folks that played these people listen to the show. I'm sure they're not. But I'm about to butcher your names. So the kid's name in the movie is Avi Mahajan. And he is played by Rakesh Jaiswal.
That sounds right.
And his son, the son of an imprisoned international crime lord. But in the murky underworld of weapons dealers and drug traffickers, an already deadly mission approaches the impossible. The boy's paternal assigned bodyguard Saju, who's played by Randeep Hooda, is first a foe and then a friend, while friend turned foe Jasper, played by David Harbour, attempts to claim the bounty on the boy for himself. So I had seen this movie when it came out, and so this was the first time you had ever seen it. So I'm gonna let you kind of say what you think.
I really liked it. You honestly don't get movies like this enough for me, because I like a good let's just have a bounty movie. Yeah. There wasn't, the only thing this movie for me was really missing was the montage of gathering the gang back together. I needed that,
Yeah, sure.
but there was no gang to get back together. But I love that. That's one of my favorite things in movies. The thing that I left with this movie is how accurate everyone was shooting guns.
Yeah.
Everything was a Resident Evil gunshot to the head. It was and it sounded like I was watching Resident Evil.
Well, like
which
the
was
main
incredible.
Well, here's the thing: the main guys, like the Hemsworth character, Tyler Rake, and the Saju character, just Hawkeye level marksmanship.
Yeah, it was crazy.
The bad guys were all
stormtroopers.
They couldn't hit the broadside of a bard.
It was amazing to me. I mean, like the plot, it was fine.
It's a by the numbers action movie.
But I did not care.
Right.
This movie just to me flew by too.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, we do the rent by pass or whatever. Like it's a great, I need to have a movie on, but I also kind of want to look at my phone, catch up on the day.
Right.
And you're not, even though I was engaged, but this is definitely one of those things ooh, I heard a gunshot, let me look up, see what happens. Or
right.
you still get the plot line, you're not missing anything. I wish Chris Hemsworth would just do these movies when he's not doing Marvel movies. Just these. Literally nothing else. It's Marvel or these kind of movies. And it could be this movie just with different actors.
Right. Well, in
different countries.
Because
I love it.
That he was Australian in this movie, so he's got his natural accent and all that. Saju, sort of the bodyguard for the son, Avi, he looks to me like, this might be a stretch, but it's just, and I thought of this the first time I watched it too, and I thought of it again the second time. He looks like Indian Christian or Middle Eastern Christian Bale. Like his facial structure looks very Christian Bale to me.
Yeah.
There's two. So the action at times is very brutal. So you said this movie flew by. What's funny about that was I was a little bit short on time to watch this. So I watched it at 1.25 speed.
Nice.
Couldn't tell a difference.
No. How would you? There's not a ton of dialogue.
There's not a ton of dialogue.
Isn't really that important.
Right. It's just...
Which is great.
Yeah. I thought... So, number one, the irony is one of his kills is Tyler Rake kills a guy with a rake. Like, he just shoves his face straight down onto the... like a dirt rake. So, one of the really cool things about this, and I'm a sucker for this, was there's a 12-minute long single shot scene that has 2 car chases, a hand-to-hand fight, and a gunfight, and then another hand-to-hand fight, I think. But so it's made to look like one shot. There are a few cuts you can, if you're an eagle-eyed observer, you can see. I think that this is something that should be done more in movies like this. The single shot,
sure.
The single shot, it just gives a different level of tension to the action. I think for me, my favorite one that I've ever seen is in True Detective Season 1. The episode where Matthew McConaughey has to infiltrate and the project's turned into a gangland shootout, basically.
Yeah, that is incredible.
That single shot is, in my opinion, the best. But this is very good as well. And like I said, it just takes the tension in the action up another notch. Like I said, it's a by the numbers action movie. There's not a lot of dialogue. The dialogue's not important. David Harbour's just in it because they wanted another star in it. That guy could have been anybody. I do want to say the bad guy, who's the Bangladeshian drug lord who kidnaps the kid, his number one, like, heavy tough guy was so comical to me. He's just like fat and has a mullet.
It was so good.
And he throws...
I didn't understand it at all. It was super funny to me.
Yeah, he throws a kid off the top of a building. And that's like supposed to establish his male dominance, I suppose. But he just he looked like I could fight him and win. You know what I mean? He's just like a fat guy with a mullet.
Yeah, it was. I would say like the casting for this was mostly what you said. This guy threw me off. Like everyone else seemed kind of perfect for the role, like David Harbour. But this guy was just like, huh? Yeah. And it's almost like they were just like, we can give him like $10,000 and he'll do this.
They may have just found him on the streets.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me at all.
The weird thing about this movie, and I think we touched on this at some point in a prior episode. So it was directed by a guy who was a Marvel stunt coordinator. Let's see if I can find his name real quick. He was like a stunt coordinator, and this is his first directorial thing. But it was produced by the Russo brothers. And they have said that they want to turn this into a cinematic universe, which doesn't make sense to me. Sam Hargrave is the guy's name. Joe Russo wrote it, and I think the other Russo has a credit on that as well. They want to turn this into a cinematic universe. I think the whole cinematic universe thing is kind of overblown. We're going to get to that a little bit later in a different topic, a quick hitter topic. I think the whole cinematic universe thing is overblown. I'd be really cool with like a movie that takes place in the same world and has like some references towards this. But I don't need an Extraction cinematic universe. It's kind of like The Shield. You remember the show The Shield?
Yeah.
Was like, it was in the same universe and there was references as Sons of Anarchy. But it wasn't like this is going to be the Sons of Anarchy cinematic television universe. You know what I mean? It was just, hey, these exist. They're in the same universe. We're just going to make some references to them. I'd be fine with that. I just think the whole cinematic universe thing is overblown outside of like Marvel and Star Wars. I mean, we've seen how much of a show the DC cinematic universe is. So there's that, but watch or pass Extraction.
Watch. 100%.
Yeah, it's not that long. I think it's with credits, it's only like an hour and 45 minutes. So
it
moves
100% watch. I mean, it's you don't actually get a lot of movies like this anymore,
right?
And so I think that's the biggest reason is you're just you're gonna have a good time and you're not wasting a lot of time.
Yep. So just to clarify, it's a watch for me. It's a watch for me. I've watched it twice. So number 4, HBO Max Harry Potter series in development. This is in extremely early talks, and they've begun, and Warner Brothers has denied the series is in development. But that could be because the show is not really in development, as these are only early talks and there's no writers, actors, directors, or even a premise that's been established. David S. from Carson City writes in and says, unless they find a way to connect the story to the original Harry storyline like Fantastic Beasts has, this show won't be worth watching.
I think it's gonna be like a prequel, like his dad. I think that is probably that would be my guess. I mean, it has to be something like that. I don't know. It's either his dad or his kids.
Well, The Cursed Child, which was a book that came after, explores them as adults. But I feel like you don't do that unless you can get the actors back.
Yeah,
and I think
that's. I can't imagine.
Think that Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson would do that. I think Rupert Grint would in a heartbeat because he's got nothing else going on. That's Ron Weasley. I don't think Daniel Radcliffe, and I mean he's doing like Equus and being naked on stages, and Emma Watson's doing like big budget movies and stuff. I don't think they're coming back for. I mean, maybe if the money's right.
If the money's right,
we never thought Chris Evans would come back as Cap.
Yeah, and he's probably going to be on one of these TV shows. Honestly, that's probably
he's
what
probably
going to
be on the Harry Potter TV show.
He might be on the Harry Potter TV. The movies were good. We all liked the movies.
And the books.
And the books, of course, yeah.
Right.
I'm just basing this purely on the visual. If Fantastic Beasts, I didn't see the second one. The first one was fine.
There's going to be a third one.
I know.
Too.
I don't know. I'll wait to see what actually is like going to be what happens, because when you hear like, oh, there might be a Star Wars TV show live action, it's like, oh, I don't know, and because the movies were but then we get the Mandalorian,
right?
So I'm not going to say that this is going to be the Mandalorian of Harry Potter. I have no idea, but there's a chance this could be great, and then we're like, ooh, wow, they did a great job. There's a chance this could be terrible too. It wouldn't shock me, but I'm like a 50-50 on this one. Like, give it. I don't really care. If it's great, then awesome.
I think that when it comes to nerddom, and I use that in quotations, there's like, the Venn diagrams. You have your Star Wars nerds, your Marvel nerds, your DC nerds, your Star Trek nerds, your Lord of the Rings nerds, your Hobbit nerds, and I think that everybody crosses into various different ones. Me personally, obviously we talk about Marvel and DC, or Marvel and Star Wars ad nauseum. So obviously I'm a Marvel and a Star Wars guy, and DC with the comic books. I don't really get down with Star Trek, and then I appreciate the Lord of the Rings stuff for what it is, but it's not something that I'm pursuing all the time. And I think Harry Potter kind of falls in that same vein. I've read the books twice, front to back, 1 to 7. I've seen all the movies multiple times. They're great, but for me personally, it was just one of those in the moment things, and it's kind of passed me by. I haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts stuff because I just don't care about it. And I think this is probably going to fall in line with that, where I just don't, unless it's something that really jumps out at me and is high quality, it's probably something that I'm going to approach with some level of tentativeness, because I'm just not, like I said, it's just not something that I'm as into as I was. I mean, the first book came out when I was in like junior high. You know what I mean? I read the first 4 books in high school, and I've been out of high school for 18 years. So this is,
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read any of them or watch any of the movies until I was 30.
Okay.
And I read all of them, and I liked the books.
Yeah.
I mean, I was super out on number 2 and wasn't actually looking forward to going forward, and then I ended up going and whatever. And I really like the movies; they're good too. But I never wanted any more after that of anything.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And then they have another book, and they have the Fantastic Beasts. So like, I was okay with it just ending there.
Right.
Unlike my Marvel thing, where like, just keep giving me Marvel stuff,
sure.
and I'll watch it. It's
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think people, but there's probably people like I know Dave that writes in, David S. from Carson City, and we give him a lot of grief a lot, but. He's a huge Harry Potter guy. He's never seen Star Wars. He dabbles in Marvel a little bit. And so there's going to be people who are just out of their minds excited for this. And for those people, I hope that it's good. And if it is, and, it kind of recaptures some of that old magic for me, I'll definitely take a peek. But, we'll see. So,
Yeah. We'll see.
Yep. Number 5, Xbox made itself a boo-boo this week. At this time, you can purchase Xbox Game Pass, the subscription service that we have touted on this show as a great value, that gives you access to games day and date of release on Xbox. It costs $9.99 a month or $100 for a year. Xbox Live Gold, which is similar to PS Plus and provides you the ability to play online and get free games. I'm sure they have cloud saves as well. That's a PS Plus feature. Costs $59.99 for a year, same as PlayStation Plus. This week, Microsoft announced that they would be moving to a plan where Live would cost the same as Game Pass. And so for the price on a month-to-month basis, it would be $240 month-to-month or $200 for the year. Compare that to $60 for PlayStation Plus customers. Needless to say, the X-Boys in the streets were not happy. X-Boss Phil Spencer made an announcement 15 hours later in which he said, "We messed up today. You're right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectations of the players who count on it every day." And that was on an Xbox blog post. They announced that the 6-month and the 12-month options would remain the same, but the 1-month and the 3-month plans would be raised by $1 and $5 respectively. So here's my thing with this is that we've talked about Game Pass. I'm not an Xbox guy. I may get an Xbox Series S down the line just because of the insane price value. I'm not an Xbox guy, but the Game Pass subscription is an incredible value. However, I think that they are hemorrhaging money on it because it's okay. So you buy Game Pass for $100 for the year, right? If you get 3 games, after a game and a half, you're getting everything for free, and they're having to pay these developers money to put their games on Game Pass, and so it's an insane value. But this isn't Netflix, right? So the thing about Netflix is it's got 200 million subscribers. Netflix kind of comes and goes. Okay, there's a movie on it I want to watch. I'm going to watch this movie. There's a series on it I want to watch. I may not use it again for another 3 months. And that's what they kind of count on. And you're just not going to cancel your subscription. And then every year they bump it up by $1, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, I already have it. I'm not going to cancel it. It's only $1. This is different because you're dealing with just the amounts of money that you're dealing with are so much more. And I play with the PS Plus thing. I play the free games every month. I play at least one of them just to try them out. Yeah, you know what I mean? Sometimes sure. I'll take them to the whole way to the end, like I did with Maneater or Bugsnax or whatever. And sometimes I'll just try them for maybe a night and I don't like it and I move on. But I think that they were trying to figure out a way to make up some of the lost money that they're losing on Game Pass. And so they're trying to do it by backdooring everybody on the live thing, which is really the free games or whatever, the quote unquote free games or whatever. But it's really as he said, connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of our community, and we fail to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day. Imagine being somebody who plays Call of Duty or Madden or whatever, 2K every day, and now all of a sudden you have to pay twice as much for it. And that pissed off a lot of people, and they kept the prices the same, but I think that's what the plan. I think that's why they did this, was they're trying to make up money that they're losing on Game Pass.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. They definitely did this. I mean, I looked at it for 2 reasons. Also, like, one of my coworkers at the bookstore mentioned this to me. He's like, "Oh, I don't know if you know this for your podcast or whatever," and he told me what happened. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, we have this coming up." I also wonder if it's like bad publicity is still publicity, and it's like, if you make something known, then people are like, "Oh crap! Well, like, why would they do this?" And then it's like, "Oh, well, now it's not that bad, so now I can get it." And like for people that
was going around on Twitter that they
I almost wonder if that's the thing.
Yeah, that was a theory going around on Twitter that they did this on purpose to then take it back and look like they're more in touch and blah 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 and goodwill because to be honest, right now Goodwill is all they have because they don't have any games on Xbox.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing on Xbox that's not on PlayStation 5, and the issue was with the Series X. It's supposed to be so much more powerful, but it's not running games as well as the PS5 is from all reports. We're going to talk about it in the next topic. Both of these systems are doing outstanding in terms of sales, but they need something right now. So I think that's why that rumor or conspiracy theory kind of took hold around like Twitter and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I fully expect to see PlayStation bundle PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus into one subscription model here in the next coming months or years, just because I think they need a way to compete with Game Pass. But I think that there's maybe, like, this is a little bit of a canary in the coal mine scenario where they're losing a boatload of cash on Game Pass because it is a great deal. Yeah. It's a great value, but they're losing a lot of money on it, and they had to try to find a way to make some of that money up.
Yeah, that's definitely the case.
Number 6, continued PS5 and Xbox Series X and S shortages have lawmakers in the United Kingdom proposing banning bots, as another online retail group reports having a stock of over 2,000 PS5s. Those guys. And claim it's getting easier to get the systems. Legislation banning bots in the land of the Queen has occurred before, with concerts being a bot target. And Thomas Platt, a cybersecurity firm, Netica, speaking on BBC Radio 4, stated that some type of legislation is being brought forth to help tamp down the issues in the House of Commons or the House of Lords. Yeah, I think this is, unfortunately, this is necessary.
Yeah, I mean, like, you gotta do something, because this is ridiculous. I mean, like, nobody can get it, and then these, bots that, it's just, it's so irritating. I don't even look anymore. Like, I am just resigning the fact that I'm not gonna get one until, like, it's just, until I can just walk into a place and grab one off it. I mean, that's just where we're at with
my hope is that I bought a few boxes of cereal in, like, November that had, like, enter this code and in February you might win one. And if I win one, I'm just going to send it to you. Because I already have one. That'd be awesome. Because I already have one.
That'd be incredible.
But yeah, this is wild. I mean, these scalpers, it seems really bad in the UK. I mean, it's bad in America too, but I think things are getting a little bit looser. I know Walmart had them for they had them like a week or so ago, and they actually had them online for like a couple hours before they all got bought.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But my Twitter notification went off like 4 hours after it said it had been a couple hours, so I didn't bother telling you. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we'll continue to keep an eye on these things. I just, the more I see stuff like that, the more I realize just how lucky I was to have gotten.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Gotten the one that I did. Clip of the week time. Clip of the week is brought to us by Jared L. this week. He gives us. I haven't watched this yet.
Oh, okay.
So I hope it's not wild. I hope it's not wildly inappropriate.
I have no idea until I just know
it
isn't. Yep.
Did you put it in?
I have just put it in.
Okay, so it says right. I'm gonna watch this. Here's what I'm gonna do. So this is, we talked about Willy Wonka prequel coming in 2023. So what Jared has sent us here is a trailer. It looks like a trailer for Willy's Wonderland, and it's a Nicolas Cage thing. So I'm gonna cut out the time of us watching this, and then maybe I'll just put it in or something later. But so I'll put the link in. But this is Willy's Wonderland trailer 1 Nicolas Cage movie. So I'm gonna watch it.
Okay.
And then we'll just watch it independently, and I'll cut that time out, and then we can react together. Sound good?
So should we watch it? Am I supposed to watch it right now too?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna start it.
I have started.
Okay.
Just crushing a beer. Chicken soup for the soul media. I like that.
Welcome to Willy's.
It's a Rotten Tomatoes thing, isn't it?
Spend the night cleaning Willy's Wonderland, and I will pay to have your car fixed. Deal? You are officially on staff. Let's get the hell out of here. I can't stand to hear a grown man scream.
This place has a dark history. I know the bullshit story they told you. It's a lie. You're here to be a human sacrifice. Have you been listening to a word I've been saying? He's gonna die in here, but he won't listen to me.
machines got out. Nobody is safe. Put your balls on, Evan. We're going to Willy's.
He's not trapped in here with them. They're trapped in here with him. It's your birthday, and we want you to it's your birthday,
Incredible content.
I'm sure a man a few words.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
On demand
So
February
good.
12th. Okay, so that wasn't what I thought it was. I thought it was like a Willy Wonka. I thought that was like a take on
I
a
did
Willy
too.
Wonka prequel. But it's literally, it's like Nicolas Cage in a haunted Chuck E. Cheese.
Yep.
And all the
Yeah.
animatronic things are alive. And they're not trapped. He's not trapped in there with that. They're trapped in.
They're trapped in with him.
So look for our review. Look for our review of that in February because I love Nicolas Cage.
I 100% watched that. Yeah.
In his face.
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. So there you go. Willy's Wonderland starring Nicolas Cage, February 12th on demand. Quick hitter time. Godzilla vs. Kong. Kong, not long. Godzilla vs. Kong full trailer released Sunday. The movie releases in theaters and on HBO Max in March. Did you watch this?
I have not, but from what I've read, is that there's a thing where Kong wins and people are super upset.
It looks
Like
like
a split?
it looks like he wins in the trailer.
That's hilarious to me. Like that, why that matters is hilarious, and I love it. I just miss the old Godzilla movies.
Two
though.
things about that is back in the day when they did Godzilla and Kong. So Godzilla's Japanese. I think everybody knows
Yeah.
that. It's originally a Japanese movie. They did in Japan. They did a Godzilla versus Kong. 60s, 50s. I don't know. And Godzilla won. And then in America, they did Godzilla versus King Kong, and King Kong wins because King Kong's like supposed to be American, which doesn't make any
Right.
sense. That makes no sense
Right.
to me. But here's what I'm going to tell you is I've watched this trailer 3 times. I'm actually really, really pumped for this movie. And
I mean,
I'm going to go back.
I'm gonna watch it. I love these movies.
I'm going to go back. Okay, so I told you Kong Skull Island was kind of a dud. But I'm going to go back and watch it, and I'm going to watch Godzilla King of the Monsters. Have you watched either of those?
I watched King of the Monsters actually.
Is it good?
I thought it was good.
Do you want to review it
I mean,
next week?
Sure, let's do it.
That could be the one that you've watched that I haven't watched. So
Yeah.
we'll review that next week. Okay, so Godzilla King of the Monsters review coming next week. You heard it here first. Yeah, I mean, Kong Skull Island, Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson are in it, and Sam Jackson. So it's some Marvel people. And, as you said, the reason why things probably go south is because Tom Hiddleston doesn't feed King Kong an aggressive amount of breakfast. But this trailer, I don't know, man. Something about it had me pumped. Like, I just liked it.
I'm watching it right now.
Okay.
And I like where we're starting here. Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, wait till
I
you-
like when things. I like when things just. Oh man, here we go. Yep. Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. So
I'm
yeah.
in 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about it.
It looks like the preview for like a boxing match.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
a old heavyweight, like all these like clips of stuff happening, but you're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if this was the world we lived in. We're like, everybody's just
Giant
kind of like, oh,
monsters were
Godzilla's.
just-
They had two giant monsters are gonna fight, and here we go.
Don't live in a big city.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil Village showcase took place on January 21st. There's a PS5 demo available now with the tall vampire lady that the entire internet is in love with for some reason. I have no intentions of this because I don't like scary things. But if you have a PS5 and you are interested in Resident Evil, there's a demo for Resident Evil. It's going to be on PS4 too. And some people are upset about that. Taka Imamura, creator of Captain Falcon, Greg's for no reason beloved Star Fox, and The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, retires after 32 years of work at Nintendo. So we wish him the best. This is one that actually, this could have gone in the 6-pack. The Last of Us Part 2 is now the most awarded game of all time with 261 Game of the Year awards,
That's crazy.
Witcher 3 is number 2 with 260, and the original Last of Us is third with like 240 or so. Yeah, I mean, it's a great game. There's no...
Do you think, too, it's just that there's more awards?
Yeah.
Is that possible? Like,
Yeah.
more things are just out there handing out awards.
Yeah,
Because,
like, that's definitely part of it. But
I imagine, like, Legend of Zelda games back in the 90s would have won things like this back in the day.
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, 260. I couldn't even...
That's still a
tell you
lot of
that.
awards. I don't care how many things there are. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot, but yeah, it's a great game. You know, I think it's one of the great games of the generation. It's one of the great games on any PlayStation hardware. I love the first one. In my opinion, the first one's better than the second one, but that's just one man's opinion. From a narrative standpoint, I think gameplay wise, the second one's certainly better. I mean, it's PS4 versus PS3, that sort of thing. I mean, it looks better. It plays, it's longer, so on and so forth. But from a narrative standpoint, I think the first one's my favorite. The first one's my favorite story. Like, literally, books, TV, movies, video games, whatever. The Last of Us is my favorite story ever.
Nice.
So I hold those games in pretty high regard. Matt Damon will appear in Thor: Love and Thunder. Boom.
Excellent.
Hopefully
Great.
playing an actor playing Loki again.
Yes, I hope that is the case. But my guess is that is probably the case, which I'm excited about.
Yes, I'm hopeful. I resisted the temptation to put this next one in the 6-pack because I'm just tired of talking about it. Cyberpunk 2077 patch 1.1 introduces several fixes to pre-existing issues, but also introduces a game-breaking bug because, of course, it does.
Incredible content. And it's just like,
Yeah.
what were they doing?
Here we
Like,
are.
It's so everything that is new is old again. Is basically
It's deja vu all over again.
it is. It's deja. It's the worst. I mean, obviously, I don't have the history with video games that you do.
Yeah.
But like, is this the worst
No,
release
yes.
for a game ever?
One of them. Yeah.
It's
the
so
only thing,
bad.
like,
It's so funny.
Like, the only two games that really come to mind for me that are comparable to this, the original version of Final Fantasy XIV was broken and unplayable, and like the systems were wrong and things like that, which usually that's a online RPG where it's multiplayer, it's massively multiplayer. And usually when that happens, like that's just, it's dead on arrival. But I think the Final Fantasy name carried a lot of goodwill, and they were able to actually take it down and put it back on, make a lot of fixes to it. They re-released it like a year and a half later under the moniker Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. I actually really liked that game. That was one of the games that I played the most of on the PS3 and the PS4 in the early era of the PS4. But the other one was No Man's Sky. And the issue with that wasn't that it was broken. It was that the developer, Hello Games, promised a bunch of features and things like that, and just none of them were in the game, and they basically like lied to everybody about it. And that game won numerous like Game of the Show awards at like E3 and different Paris Games Week and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, it's gonna have this, that, and the other, and just none of that stuff was in it. And Hello Games didn't talk about, like, they just didn't say anything for months. And then finally they said stuff, and they said, we're gonna fix this, and we're gonna implement all this, and just give us time, and blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people were pissed and fell by the wayside, but they actually reworked that game to the point where in the last year it started winning awards for best game as a service, ongoing, blah, blah, blah. But it took them 5 years to get it turned around.
Jeez.
Or thereabouts.
That's
I'm
crazy.
not sure when No Man's Sky, I think it was 4 or 5 years. Sky. It's like a world, it's like a space thing. 2016, so it took them about 4 years, yeah. It never looked like it was going to be my cup of tea, but it's like a space exploration game, and you have to find resources and build your ship, and but yeah, this is pretty terrible. So
It's incredible though.
it's something. Meteor
It's literally, we've talked about it just as much as we've talked about Star Wars.
in the last, since it came out. I mean, it's been over a month now. I think it's been in the news. I think we've talked about something Cyberpunk related for at least the last 5 weeks, which is crazy because this is also a game that I have no intention of ever playing, even when
Right.
they get it fixed. I don't
Right.
care about this. I didn't play The Witcher, and it's the second most awarded game ever. and I'm a big gamer. You'd think that'd be something that I'd play, but not for me. Media recommendations.
A good week for me on media recommendations. When things are not optimal, you go for stuff that just caters to your heart. It's comfort food. And comfort food comes no better than Selena and Chef is back, baby! I love this show.
I don't know what that means.
Selena and Chef. It's Selena Gomez, who I adore. She's so great on this show. She has this awesome kitchen. It's filmed during quarantine, so it's just all these people it's like her grandma and her grandpa, and two or three friends that are like all in the house together for quarantine, and they do like Skype things with the chefs. It's great. I love it. She's super funny because she's not good at this. She almost like burns her kitchen down.
Are these like celebrity chefs or?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
who's are some of the chefs?
Jose Andres is the latest episode, and I think most people kind of know who he was. I've been to went to DC. I've been to a restaurant and a bar there. Marcus Samuelsson is going to be on it this season. Nancy Silverton, John and Vinny from various places in Los Angeles.
The Swedish
she just
chef.
gets like. At some point, it wouldn't shock me if we get the Swedish chef on there at some point. Or the horse. It's really great. What's fun to me is that like she's not good at this, but she's okay with not being good at it. Like she gets upset and she wants to be better and she does try. But it's just a fun show, and the chefs are normally super nice to her. There's a couple times where people are not like. I would love to see like Gordon Ramsay do it at some point. That would be really funny, and he would probably actually end up being super nice, but because he actually kind of gets it now. I mean, he got it before, but like he's more in that like tongue in cheek about it. So that's really good. It's on HBO Max. I can't really recommend that enough, especially if you just want to kind of hang out.
Sure,
it's a good hangout show.
Gotcha.
And then Janie introduced me to this movie I'd never heard of until last Friday. It's the unofficial sequel to Goodfellas, is what a lot of people call it. It's called My Blue Heaven. It stars Steve Martin and Rick Moranis. So right there, you have me in. It's written by Nora Ephron.
How's this the unofficial sequel? Explain how.
So
this
it's
is
this guy
Goodfellas.
who. Okay, so Steve Martin is this guy that's in witness protection program because he was part of the mob and then moves forward, and he's in like this, podunk thing. Rick Moranis is like his guy that's got to like keep him in control, and like hijinks ensue.
Is it a comedy?
And it is. It's like a dark comedy kind of thing, and it's oddly like when I'm watching this with Jane, I'm like, this is so stupid in a sense because it is like Steve Martin going like 10 times Steve Martin-y and just he's got like this weird accent, and there's just his hair's insane. It's dyed. To see Steve Martin without gray hair is always like a shocking thing for me.
Yes.
And then it's Rick Moranis being Rick Moranis, which we have raved about how much we like Rick Moranis on this show.
Yeah, big Rick Moranis
It's
fan.
super over the top, but it fits. It's weird how you're like, oh, when Jane explained it to me, it's like, oh, it's like the unofficial sequel. And it is. It is like the unofficial sequel to it. It's so funny. I actually think it's a fun little watch. It's a tight movie, too. I think it's like an hour, 32 minutes. So probably like an hour, 28 without the ending credits. Sure. And then we watched 30 Minutes or Less, which is pretty funny, too. It came out in 2011. Jesse Eisenberg, Danny McBride, Aziz Ansari, Nick Swardson, Michael Pena. So it's just... Jesse Eisenberg is just this, like, he's just this kid that hasn't really figured it out, and he's a pizza delivery driver, and he gets caught up in this scheme of Danny McBride trying to, like, get enough money to kill his rich dad so he takes in the inheritance.
Gotcha.
And when you read those names, those are all funny people, so that's what happens with this movie. It's also very tight, and it has like some good action scenes in it too, all like driving action scenes, because Jesse Eisenberg, being a pizza delivery guy, takes like really like a lot of pride in his ability to drive and do things, in a quick manner. So, and it has the Jesse Eisenberg like cringy nervousness stuff, and the girl involved and stuff is like really pretty good in it too. But yeah, it was more of a week to like. I think this weekend was more of like I have to watch things that are funny and not too serious because it was just it was a long week. But yeah. What about you?
So the main thing that we're watching is we're watching an old season of Big Brother, and I have to tell you, I love this show. I'm in. When new seasons start, I'm in. The only
all right,
the weird thing about it is, so Big Brother takes place over the summer. So, and this is the one thing that I don't like about it is that in an episode of the challenge, you accomplish who wins the challenge, who gets nominated, and who gets eliminated. Sometimes they leave the elimination on a cliffhanger, whatever. Because there's nothing else on in the summer, they have 3 or 4 episodes a week of Big Brother, and only one thing a week gets accomplished. So you have who wins the head of household challenge, and then who they nominate, who wins the veto challenge, and whether they veto somebody, or if there's some other weird interstitial competition, that gets its own episode, and then there's an eviction episode. So it takes 3 or 4 episodes to resolve 1 week, whereas on a show like I said, the Challenge or Survivor or whatever, it's all boiled down into 1 episode. It just gives you more content. There's 40 episodes in the season that we're watching. 40. There's usually
holy cow.
There's usually 24 or so for Survivor or the Challenge. But the premise of this show and the things that these people have to do are hilarious. So, for example, we just watched an episode tonight before we recorded where they're in this competition and 3 people get a consequence or a punishment, and they have to do this thing for a certain amount of time. So the first guy gets he has to wear what's called the extremitard. It's like a leotard, but it's extreme, and so he has to for the next week act extremely extreme about everything that he does. He has a helmet with a big X on it. 2 people are tandem parachuters for the next 48 hours. So they're in a tandem parachute skydiving suit, and they have to do everything together. They have to go to the bathroom together. They have to sleep in the same bed together. They have to eat together, and it's a dude and a woman, and so they're just attached. And then this one's my favorite. The third person gets called. She's the camp guide. So when a bugle comes on over the loudspeaker, she has to dress as Smokey the Bear, basically, for the whole week. And whenever this bugle comes on over the loudspeaker, she has to unpack an entire camping set, tent, blankets, sleeping bag, everything, make everyone a hot dog, and give them the hot dog. And they're setting it off at 24 hours of the day. One of them was at 4 o'clock in the morning. The bugle goes off. This girl has to get up, set up this camp thing, make everybody a hot dog, take them a hot dog. It's great. That. Just that alone, just to see the punishments. There was the one where the people had to dress up as frogs and they had to hop everywhere for a whole week. It was great. So we're watching the season that Josh from the Challenge is on. I don't think we're going to do any other old seasons, but like I said, whenever new seasons come on, I'm on it. I'm on it for sure. I listen. You would love it. You'd love it.
Okay.
How
do I? What should I watch it on?
It's on CBS, so it's probably
just CBS.
I'm sure it's on YouTube TV or Hulu or whatever.
All right.
Now, if you want to watch old ones, that's on CBS All Access. It's not on anything else.
All right.
I'm playing Days Gone. I'm getting I'm really into it, but I'm still this is a zombie game and it's a Sony first party game. It doesn't need to exist because it's not The Last of Us. It's perfectly fine, but it is what it is. I've unleashed this goal of I'm going to read 1 book a month. So I am going to finish Ready Player 2 in the next 4 days or whatever, 5 days. I only have 50 pages left. But the next book for me is I looked up to see what some good canon Star Wars novels are. So I ordered Star Wars Aftermath, and it takes place immediately after Return of the Jedi.
So that's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah. So there's a trilogy. So that's what's on the horizon for me.
I forgot to mention I am on the 3rd book of the Alain Ferrante Neapolitan novels, and I'm 50 pages in. It's great. And we watched the show on HBO, and the show is amazing. She's one of the writers on it.
Sure.
That's her nom de plume. It's not her real name, but that. And I'm also listening to Tyler Childers. Yeah. It's bluegrass. It's great. I'll just add that in. He's awesome.
I haven't listened to anything because I don't go anywhere. I listen to podcasts.
Yeah, that is the thing.
I go to if I go for a walk, but I can't even do that now because it's just Northwest Pennsylvania. So we're looking at a high of 20.
We're getting our version of a winter storm here. It's going to be like a ton of rain. I'm nervous for mudslides.
And what? It's going to be
I
like
am.
55 degrees.
The other day it was like 46, and we're all like, "This is insane! How cold this is!" It was funny.
The high on Thursday here is 20.
That sucks.
So
hey, once I got used to it, though, like, hey, I lived in Juneau, Alaska for a little while, and it was like 0 degrees for like
That's fair.
days on end.
So we kind of dropped the ball this month. Well, and when I say we, I really mean me. So we were supposed to have a guest on, and I gave him too short of a notice, so he wasn't able to make it tonight. So we're going to try to link up with him in February. And then we also said we were going to do our action movies, our action and drama top 10. So we are going to do that. We're going to record it this month, but it's not going to come out until February 1st. So by the time you hear this, it will already have been recorded because we're going to do it on Thursday. But that'll be coming here in the next week as well. And, we put stuff out on social media for that. I'm going to put stuff out again. I'm going to put stuff out tomorrow and Thursday to try to get some more submissions because as of right now, I only have 2 listener submissions as well as our top 10 to go on. I'm not asking for like a whole list. I just want people's, favorite action movie, favorite drama, or, one or the other. So we're going to be doing that. That's going to be fun. I'm hoping it'll be a shorter episode and we won't have to break it into 2. But we'll try to keep
That should be a quick episode.
Yeah, I'm thinking. So we're going to have that coming. And then February, for the extra, we're going to do our favorite comedies / musicals, in case you want to throw a musical in there.
Yes.
We're doing this Golden Globe style. So we'll have that going. We won't wait till the last minute on that because the thing about February is you look up and it's gone.
It's Golden Globe style too, so you don't even have to wear a tie if you're listening.
Good.
Yeah.
Or if you're recording.
Right.
So maybe we should.
Maybe we should just really dress up.
We probably should. And we are going to do, I think we're going to try to do trivia in February at some point. We've been talking about that for a while, and we'll try to get that going. But, BXG every Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Podcast services around the globe, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, Pandora, Amazon.
Don't forget about 2 a.m. Hawaiian time.
2 a.m. Hawaiian time. Good night, Canada. We want to welcome in our Canadian listeners. We got a couple downloads.
Yes, we do.
Recently.
I need a Canadian flag like I'm Tony Kornheiser waving at the end here now.
So follow us on Instagram at BXG Podcast, at YTB, at GTFills, Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, YouTube.com/BXG Podcast. Tell your friends, tell your family.
Tell your mothers.
About the unmistakable essence of the BXG Podcast, unofficially sponsored by LaCroix Water.
Thank you, LaCroix.
Take care, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for listening.